If anybody doesn't know who this gentleman is, I think you're at the wrong conference. But I'm giving away a candy bar for a trivia question. So one of Juan's games is Jewels of the Amazon. And according to Wikipedia, Amazon is the second longest river in the world. Can anybody tell me the name of the longest river in the world? The Nile. Who said that?
Over there.
Raise your hands.
Gentlemen.
Okay. Juan, it's all yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Juan Gril. I'm a studio manager at Joju Games. We are in a casual game development studio. 7-year-old now. I feel old. Yeah, and I've been doing casual games for 14 years. So it's been quite a ride. And talking to Julia and the folks at Casual Connect, they asked me to come in and talk about how social games and free-to-play games have changed the way that we make games in our studio. So I'm going to be doing a very heavily focus on production talk, not as much on design of game design, but basically focus on how we have reorganized our company and our teams in order to produce and maintain social and free-to-play games. So before we started producing social and free-to-play games, this was the work. This was basically we would talk to a publisher and propose an idea, get the funding, and make a prototype, or sometimes make a prototype, go talk to a publisher, make the idea, and then work towards an alpha, a beta, goldmaster, be done, ship the game is out, then we'll move on to the next one. But today it's completely different. In fact, one of the things that have radically changed is that the game is never done, ever. So the philosophy of the game production is that we basically continue developing the game until the game is shut down. This is one of the biggest and radical changes in the way that you work with a publisher or that you work making games. You need to think of your company and your studio as committed to a game. There's no way you could develop the game and even put some junior people to actually maintain it. That's not the way it works. We thought that was going to be the case. No, big, huge mistake. You commit to your team to work on that game until that game is shut down. And sometimes you need to rotate people in your company in order to make sure that they're not bored with the project that they're doing. But you need to maintain a core team of people working in this game and continuously improving it. So, and I'm going to be talking about that in a little bit, about where we're going with all this. But the other big change is that you're going to hear this word a lot of times, and it's called the MVP. That MVP means most viable product. And this is a word that we use now in order to determine what we're going to ship the first time, what users are going to see the first day the game is available to the world. And the bar of what that means varies considerably. So there's no written rule in terms of what an MVP means. An MVP in an arcade game is completely different from a strategy game, from a casino-style game. And what we found is that even in production, that MVP line might change depending on the needs of actually shipping. And because of that, and that's why I'm going from right to left instead of left to right in this slide, and because of that, the number of builds that you are making in order to achieve that MVP also changes. So that's why when I worked on this slide, I couldn't tell you, oh yeah, we're reaching a beta stage before we actually get to MVP, because that's not true anymore in free-to-play game development. You actually work on iteration after iteration and iteration of the game, adding features, and at a certain point you're like, okay, this is usable by users. Let's put it out there, get feedback, and keep improving with it. Update 1, update 2, update 3, update 4. So the way that we develop games is way less rigid than it used to be. And talking about contracts and contractual stuff and how to deal with publishers in this world is a completely different talk in itself. But that's something that is important. If you are milestone based, if you have a contract that is based on milestones, on alpha, on a beta, you never know when you're gonna get paid, basically, because what's alpha, what's beta is completely relative, based on what your needs are as you're developing the game. So that's a very important point, and it changed radically how we think about projects. And in order to be a little bit more practical and show you a project, I decided to pick one of our most successful games right now. And the game is called Bingo Blingo. It's a game that is available for a casual multiplayer game based on bingo. And it's available on Facebook, on iPhone, and on iPad. And the Android version is coming out next month. So not only we started now making free-to-play games, now we make cross-platform games. And they all talk to each other. They all have the same accounts. So this highly technical challenges as well into this world. And again, that's also a completely separate talk. But basically, something that Bingo Blingo had in common with the rest of the games that we had is that we still have pre-production. It's not that because of the fact that we're iterating, we skip pre-production and we start, coding around and hacking around. We still have proper pre-production of any game that we're trying to make. And during the development of the game, like I was saying before, the iterations are a little bit different in the sense of you work from a nucleus and you start developing the core game mechanic, and then you start adding a series of features, and you plan, similar to the Scrum development system, you start planning 2 to 3 weeks of work, and you add a few features, and you test that again with users. Having said that, another thing that is also very important, because of the fact that that online development gives us the flexibility to have an easy way for our clients to see what we're developing, we have switched into a process of checking every 48 hours and looking at the game every 48 hours with our publisher. And that has made a huge difference in terms of where we're going, and to get into a more effective development schedule and time frame. And then once we reach the point where we think that the game is ready for real users to actually play it, we basically put the game live, and instead of doing a huge promotion, we only send a few thousand users a day to the game. And when I say a few thousand users, I literally 1,000 to 2,000 users to the game. This is a major fundamental difference from the way that we were releasing games before. Because when we were making single-player games, first day, the whole marketing force was on the game. Right now, when we release a game on day one, it will go on Facebook, or it will go on a website, on a portal, and it will basically get 10,000 impressions. So we get 500 users. That's on day one. And we'll see what happens with those 500 users. We analyze what happens with those 500 users. We make tweaks. And at that point, we're delivering nightly builds. So we're updating the game nightly, fixing bugs, fixing issues that might arise. And that, in the case of Bingo Blingo, that lasted for a month. For an entire month, we had the game live, and we were sending only 1,000 users every day. So by the time we opened the floodgates, we had 30,000 MAUs. That's all. That's all we had. And part of that was through the promotion, the advertising that we paid to get the users. Another part was by, basically virality. Friends playing because some other friend posted something about the game. There's a lot of things also that are very specific to multiplayer games that you have to be careful about in terms of managing traffic and managing any types of issues that you will never ever see during the QA time frame, because your QA people at the most can extend to 100 testers at a time. We actually tested Bingo Blingo with 100 testers, and they didn't discover things that showed up on day 2 when we had 2,000 users. So it really opens a lot of problems and things that you have to be ready to fix right away. And that is not recommendable if you already threw out $100,000 in advertising on day 1. So you have to be really careful about that. So April 15 of this year was the launch of Bingo Blingo, the first day. On May 15, we opened the floodgates, and we basically had the team, as the number one priority, fix any bugs that might come in. And there were lots of them. There were security issues, people hacking the game, people having problems updating, people who had 5,000 friends on the Facebook account and the friend system being choked. There were a lot of different things that created a problem. And in fact, I have a video of Bingo Blingo, which I'm going to show right now, so you get a better idea of what I have. But basically, you see this at the bottom is our friends bar, and there's a lot of interactions that are generated with this information, like how many bingos each of your friends obtain helps you toward achieve a weekly bonus. So there's a lot of information being pulled from different services, from our backend server, from Facebook, etc., etc., etc. And depending on the nature of what happened, people with 5,000 users in their account, people who had friends who removed the game from the game, people who befriended other people, like deleted other people from their Facebook account, but they're still friends on Bingo Blingo. There are so many test cases and situations on when you're dealing with a social network that creates a lot of problems that you would never see when you're producing a single player game. And that is why when you release the game, you release it for just a small amount of people, and you try to fix all these bugs as soon as possible. But basically, in our case, and I'm just gonna be playing the game for a little bit so you guys can see the game while I keep talking about this. On May 15, we opened the floodgates, but we were working on the iPhone build at the same time. So priority number 1 was, let's fix any bugs that might arise. But priority number 2 was, we need to get the iPhone build out. Because we've been working for a while with Flash and the new capabilities in Flash to work with Starling and basically talk to the hardware directly instead of working just with Flash. That allows us to create very compelling clients on iOS. So basically, today, Bingo Blingo is developing Flash, but for all platforms. We had issues with the server. We had issues with a lot of different things. But by the end of July, we were able to get the first iPhone version out, and that dropped a new series of problems on us, and that is. Anything that works well on Wi-Fi will not work well on 3G or 2G or Edge, and all kinds of phone networks, and there's all kinds of issues that cannot be replicated on a regular internet connection. Things such as the packets in a cellular environment might arrive in different order. and we'll have to on the server resort those packets as they were coming in. So there were situations where you dub the last number, you call bingo, and that was improperly registered in the server, and you would actually lose, and when you actually won, stuff like that on a phone, on a 3G network where things will where things would drop, then will really create problematic environments that will never appear on the Facebook version. That created a series of problems and created that you needed to do other things that you didn't need to do before, such as, for example, drive on a highway at 130 kilometers an hour while playing Bingo Blingo on your iPhone. Of course, you have somebody else to drive it, right? Not yourself. But really, I mean, we did tests like that. We actually had somebody get in a car. I myself got in a car with somebody, and as she was driving, I was playing Bingo Blingo, and I was registering what things could be problematic. And when you find holes in the cellular network, those are the perfect places to find. Another thing that's also very important is that it's not just about your bars, how many bars you have, but also what kind of bandwidth the network operator is providing to that specific area. So it's two different variables, and both variables can go wrong, or just one of them can go wrong. So you can have great signal. You can have 4 bars in some place, but because the network operators only provided a small internet connection to that tower, then it doesn't matter that everybody has 4 bars, they will have a slow and with a lot of latency connection. These are examples of things that have become an issue, and we had to be prepared for that. So it has changed significantly how we develop games. And we added another thing to have fun with, which was tablets. And the iPad version of Bingo Blingo was released in September of this year, 2 months after the iPhone version. This was supposedly the easiest one to make because the UI was very close to the desktop version. In fact, the desktop version of Bingo Blingo and the iPad version of Bingo Blingo have only a few differences in terms of the UI. The UI ratio is almost the same. However, we ran into other problems at the same time in terms of performance, because the iPad in itself, it has a higher resolution, so you have to optimize all your graphics since it's not a desktop computer. So anything that you were pushing on the desktop in this resolution needs to be highly optimized for the iPad if you want to push the same type of graphics. Fortunately, we were able to, but we had a lot of graphic optimization. So that's another layer in the development of cross-platform free-to-play games today. You have the issues that your users, especially if you are cross-platform users, and they exist. It's fascinating how a lot of people will actually email you about this, I've been playing on the Facebook version, then I went into the iPhone version while I was on the train. My tickets were not synchronized, stuff like that. Pops up on the customer care queue all the time. So they expect a certain level of quality on the iPad because they see the desktop version. They're like, well, but that doesn't look like the desktop version. So there's a lot of work on graphic optimization that needs to be done. And that is a new layer of things. I just forgot to mention is that when you add a new platform, you're also adding a new payment system. For the iPhone version, another thing that was pretty tricky was the fact that all the same purchases would need to work on the App Store, not necessarily with Facebook credits. And also make sure that if I buy something on my phone, I'm going to be able to use it on the desktop if I want to, right? Because I purchased it. So I have to make sure that it works on all platforms, regardless of where I bought it from. So by the time that we got, by the time last month that we got the 3 builds out, we found that the testing was really big. Just testing of a feature had made it a lot more complex, because you can. It's not that you can test it on one platform and you're good to go. You actually have to do a full run on each platform. So right now, testing Bingo Blingo on all the test cases, it requires 4 hours per platform. So we actually need a day and a half of somebody to actually do a full test of Bingo Blingo, report bugs, and send it back to us. So it became almost impossible for the way that we have organized our company is that when it comes to develop features, we have a first line of QA, and those are the producers themselves, because they know the game. And they do just the first line of QA. That means, if there's no bug that I can see right away, this is ready for sending it to the real QA guys. But we avoid sending our games to QA with obvious bugs, like in-your-face bugs. And that's a standard development practice, right? Because you don't want to send it to QA something that you can find in 1 minute. So the testing of all 3 platforms requires basically one producer cannot do it all. And we had to make the team bigger than what it is. So the team that got Bingo Blingo to Facebook was basically a producer, 2 artists, and 2 programmers. And as we got on the 3rd platform, we expanded with an associate producer and a 3rd programmer. And we are talking with our publisher right now to increase this team to be a bigger team, because there's 2 things that are upcoming, and that is Android. So we have to support Android smartphones and Android tablets, but we also are creating bingoblingo.com, because we're not that's another important element of how we're creating games right now. The game should not be tied to just one social network or just one web portal. You need to develop your software architecture so it's social network or website agnostic. So we are developing bingoblingo.com right now, and making sure that we can send people towards a website where we don't have to pay Facebook for the 30% of the Facebook credits. I let my artists do this slide and said, put Bingo Blingo wherever you want to put Bingo Blingo, and they chose planes and fridges for some reason that I'm not sure about. But it's actually not crazy. I mean, one of my good friends is one of the guys who make games for airplanes now. So I wouldn't think that's too far away. This is another thing that is also very important. Your technology choice needs to be thought in a way that you can be ready for anything in the future. You're not developing games for PC anymore. You're developing games for a lot of different platforms, and your choice of technology needs to support that. And the reality is that users are spread out across many different platforms now. I mean, it's really rare that a user will just play games on a PC. It's becoming more and more common to say, I want to be playing this game on 2 different platforms. I might play this game during my lunch break in the office on the works PC, but then I will jump on the train going home and I will use my iPad or my iPhone. We're going to see that happening more and more often. I might get home and I would like to play my game on the TV. So we're going to see that more and more, and we should be getting ready for that. And that's what we've been working for to achieve that goal. We've been working on that for 1.5 years now. So that's pretty much it. I'm wondering if anybody has any questions. Yes, over there. Yeah.
Hello?
Yes.
And the quality of people and also the different type of people are, of course, needed for games like these, like PHP programmers or backend programmers.
Right.
How did you manage to transfer the team from being a creative, I don't know what language you probably also made?
I think I understand the question.
Yeah.
Basically, I wanted to keep being a creative house. So I partner with companies who would have the engineers to do that. So for example, I don't develop backends. I don't develop backend infrastructure. I recommend companies. So if a publisher comes to me and says, I want you to develop the servers, I'm like, no, sorry, can't do that. Because that would take me away from the core of who I am. I'm a creative house. I'm a bunch of artists, and we have programmers, of course, but they're all interested in creating games, not working for 6 months on a server. So we partner up with PlayerScale, also called Player.io, and FlowPlay. These two companies, they develop a server infrastructure, and they provide that server infrastructure to us. So when we go to a publisher, we say, you can talk to AWS or your favorite one, but we don't develop servers. Yeah. And also, it's my philosophy on that is that there's no way you could make a better job than them, because they have the best engineers to do that. And it's like people who make websites would develop their own web server. You know, nobody does that. It's like they have Apache for that, right? It's like ridiculous to think about developing your own web server. So I think 5 years from now, that's going to become a non-issue. People are going to just buy these packages from these companies. But right now, there's still people who think, oh, we need to develop your own. Yeah. You're welcome. Any other questions, guys? We're good. Thank you very much.